I'm Jay Song. Here's some highlights from today's video. Everything in this video is never financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. Everything is just for entertainment, educational, and comedic purposes only, never to be taken seriously. Trading in the markets carries substantial risk. Never trade more than you can afford to lose, and especially be aware against high leverage trading. Past performance is never indicative of future performance. This is also never any nutritional or medical advice as well. In today's session, we started out looking at USDT.D and Bitcoin. We do have some updates for you. Then we looked at Frame, BTAP, Shiba, Luna Classic, Volt, ADA, XTC, Gala, Elon, Doge. And our second session, we looked at Mickey, VR, FET, Velo, BSV, and then we closed the day reading the Word of God, of course, with some closing prayer during our live session. But here's some of the highlights from today's video. But here's some of the image highlights from today's video. These are the screenshots we took, as well as looking back, having one more look at our charts here. I took a step back and looked at USDT.D on a monthly chart. I have two charts for you, but this is a new monthly chart, and I noticed something very interesting. It's very similar to Bitcoin in its curve. And when this chart goes up, Bitcoin primarily moves down in its strides on its candles. And when it moves down, primarily Bitcoin is allowed to move up. There is many very interesting relationship dynamics in Bitcoin. And when I read this chart, I can often tell when Bitcoin's about to have a big move by comparing this chart side by side with Bitcoin. I see a few things on this chart. I see that there is a curve on the bottom connecting the bottom energy centers. Connected here on December of 2017, I can see that the curve and support in April of 2021 was justified, as well as the support in November of 2021. The support of this chart moving up was justified. Okay, now the major chart that I've been showing you guys primarily revolves around this blue line, which is going to be a multi-touch flat support. Okay, so this multi-touch flat support tells me that prices should be reversing along either the top, the middle, the middle. This tells me that prices should be reversing within this blue range. I gave a price for the top part of the range, which is around 460. The lowest part of the range is around 4.39. This area right here, 4.52, is where I had in my first image report where I placed it to here. And that meant it was a smaller range. And I was concerned about that. However, in hindsight, I can see that this top may not be the strongest because it carried one of the smallest down moves. Although it was part of the three, it was definitely by far the least of the three. Bringing it down to the cores in these areas near 4.39, I can see some very interesting things. Number one, when we broke above here, that told us that this price should be moving higher, which means that Bitcoin should have been going lower during those times. And indeed it was. We've been looking at this chart for the past couple of years. And now I also see that we've made a large round down move, and we had a few reasons why that would be. Now I want to point out, because of that curve gives us some support around these current prices right now of 4.28. Now this is a monthly chart again, so that means that each one of these is just 1 month worth of time, and this is over several years. But this is very important, because if this chart is able to find support, we would be looking for Bitcoin to make a massive reversal, and it would seem comes out of nowhere. If I'm taking a look at the support, there should be support in this area. And over the few months, we've been looking at different parts of it telling us we're gonna get to this flat. And I've been pointing out that flat for almost a year and a half or so. Primarily 4.16 up here, and then and a few points down here in the blue from our other charts. I'm going to get to that other chart in just a moment, but I did want to highlight a few things. Number one, the top is on a separate curve, and this is very interesting. I don't know if you guys can see it here, but it's this blue line here. Let's put it back to where it was. This blue line encompasses all the tops from March of 2018, January of 2019, some of the cores from September 20th, cores near June of 2020, and June of 2022, and December of 2022. Now, this would be very interesting Because if price is bouncing around in this area, that means that when we're at 9.83, we may be looking for another bullish market to start. In addition, if I see prices building underneath these areas, I would be looking for us to be very bullish for a time to come. But as it is, I'm still looking at reversals. I was primarily paying attention to the monthly chart close, and this monthly chart does have me concerned because we closed within that range. And this primarily means we could still move down, but as long as we're not closing below these areas primarily, we should be reversing on this chart, which means Bitcoin is dangerous to trade. I'm not saying today is the day, because is what you're going to hear in just a few moments. But these are the areas primarily where we're going to reverse. Now pay attention to what I'm about to show you. If you guys didn't see my other videos, I want you to know that we could spike all the way this far as a distance, right? On the top side of that line is how far we spiked, which means that on the back side, it is very possible that we could spike all the way down to a low number here while Bitcoin is still pumping, and that would still be perfectly natural and normal for a reversal in prices and Bitcoin to go down. Now that would look like a rug pull for many people. I thought that was very interesting what Prophet Robin said, using the word rug pull. I don't know if I used that similar terminology in my first report. I have to watch it again, but that's basically what it encompasses. It's going to look like a move that comes out of normal. And I've been watching the volume on Bitcoin. I've been watching the volume, and I actually can see that they're propping up the market and causing the buying frenzy to happen. Now, one of the principles I explained today during the video, and I'm going to explain it again just right now for your sake if you're watching this later either on YouTube or from our community. One of the things I'd said is that when prices are being accumulated by professional money, those prices cannot be all bought at the same time. If you walk into an auction with billions of dollars and you have all your representatives, each representing those chunks of orders, and you start ordering, you're going to drive the auction up against your own interest. It does not suit you to just be the only buyer. So you have to buy in small pieces, and you have to disguise your maneuvering. And now this study is found in a volume spread analysis made popular by, I believe it was Richard Wyckoff, and I was taught this by Tom Williams and Gavin Holmes from the Trade Guider company. They do a great job teaching VSA, although they don't use candlesticks, which are my favorite. They do use bar charts, and it's very interesting. Now, this is not a promotion for them, but it is a good place to start if you're learning to read volume spread analysis. And one of the basic principles that you learn within reading the study of the volume versus the candle and reading them together in tandem, one of the things you learn in VSA is that if there is accumulation in a market and they're buying, they have to buy in chunks. When they buy in those chunks, what happens is the price can be driven against them. So they need to do certain things that are against their interest, even temporarily. One of the things they do is they sell, and they sell more. And you would say, that's counterintuitive. They're trying to buy. Yes, but if they sell just enough to scare people up or to drive the price down, then it's this way that they're doing manipulation. And this is a type of manipulation. It's one of the oldest manipulations. It happens in the stock market all the time. It's been happening for a very long time. It is not like a glitch or data manipulation, but it has become more of that as they've moved into using advanced algorithms, advanced AIs. And although I believe manipulation happens on many levels, this is one of the more fundamental ones. This is the one I appreciate because this is the one you can actually see happening, and they cannot hide that activity. Now, when you look at volume, it doesn't tell us if it's buying or selling. It just shows activity. Reading it in relationship to the spread lets you know if it's buying or selling. Now, I'm going to let you know something. If the big banks, hedge funds, financial institutions are buying it, they will temporarily sell it to create a selling frenzy, to make everybody want to sell more, number one. Number two, for all the people who are in buy good positions, they will spike them down in the opposite direction if they're leveraged. and it will stop them out. If they're regular retail traders and they set a stop or loss below the trade, they buy it, it goes down temporarily, they collect it and they say thank you, and they buy it for dirt cheap prices because they want to sell high, and then the price reverses on them. And then the price goes up higher and you're like, what? I was right. You were right. But you weren't strong enough in a position, you didn't buy at the more correct level, so to speak, to withstand the high move up. And this is how the professional money maneuvers to get you out of some of your strongest position. And this is how they move and pull the market. Let me give you an example of the spikes, okay? If we look at the spikes or the wicks, we can see that these candles actually stopped at 4.39. And yet they spiked all the way this far. If this was a normal stock or something, you would see people buying at this top and then immediately be in a bad position. Okay, the candle really stopped at 4.39, and yet it was allowed to spike all the way to 5.58. Now what we've done, and what you can do to make this make sense, is we can take that middle barrier and draw a measurement along this path. And with that measurement, we can take that measurement and put it underneath the same side, if that's the low. And that means that theoretically we could spike all the way down. We can spike all the way down to 350 and still reverse in Bitcoin. This could create a very large buying frenzy and be very dangerous for crypto traders who are chasing the candles. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we go through the month of March. Now, before I go any further, I want to show you my Bitcoin chart. If we look at Bitcoin, the place that I have been primarily expecting prices to rise in this first move is to the multi-touch flat, which is about right here, okay? You guys remember this from my first report. And look where we closed. We closed exactly in the middle in that flat area. That flat area has a range of 59,000 as a high and a low of 53,780. And we closed just about right in the middle. But if I look at the weekly chart, I have another concern. My other concern is that these two supports back here on the weekly chart, with some verification, has gone and hit the ceiling here, or price has hit the ceiling from that foundational area. And these two areas are causing more problems in the resistance. The other thing I was primarily focused on with Bitcoin was on the monthly volume. The high spike in volume was part of that distribution from my previous video and previous report back in January. But yet this very high candle is on less than average volume, or just average volume. The problem with that is that when we looked at the distribution that started at the $30,000 area, the volume was very high. And I said, this is distribution happening. And the next month, when we came back to those same prices, the volume was very low. Look how low the volume is. It's where this ball is moving, okay, my mouse. That's where the volume was closing here on this very large up bar in the month of October of 2021, right before this Bitcoin went down. Now, if we look at the volume, and I mark that spot, here, you can actually see that we are trading on less volume last month. This is this new month of March right here. This one up here is less than the volume that we had back then, and that was when price fell. This is very concerning because it fell on basically no demand. Okay, it fell on no demand after a period of distribution. It was in their best interests, even though they started distributing it at 30,000, to buy back small enough pieces to keep the party going. And when they left the party, immediately the prices fell. It's because they had to disguise and hide their selling. That's what has to happen with professional money. They have too much money to move that they'll move prices against themselves. So they have to start leaving the party early, and they have to leave it in chunks. So they will create a buying frenzy in the distribution area and then drive prices down. Now, as prices of Bitcoin started coming up, we're still on no demand. There's no party here. Now, they're going to try to spike it up a little bit higher on the smaller charts, and already we're seeing that. But this is the same principle that I began teaching you in reverse, that when they want to buy and they're accumulating, in times of accumulation, they will do things that is against their own interest. They will sell it to drive the prices down, to get you out of your position. They will cause large spikes like in March of 2021. They will do that and sell against their own interest. But then this candle right here in March of 2020 was actually buying. We know that because we closed near the lows on a down bar, and the next bar was an up bar also with just a slightly above average volume. If this was all selling, why was the next 2 or 3 bars up bars? Why was that the case? Okay, if this was really selling and heavy selling, then why did we go up? And some of those bars on almost equal volume, even though the spread is small. What does this mean? Buying was happening here. Okay, but they're going to do things. They're going to drive prices down and sell small points to stop you out, to shake you out, and make you lose your position. And yes, it's against their own interest temporarily. Now the same thing has happened. Even though I believe the distribution has already happened in this section or started to happen, they still want to sell at the best prices. If they are selling microwaves, refrigerators, or even houses, they want to get the most amount of money. In this case, they bought Bitcoin at low prices and they've been holding out. And now sometimes they have to buy even more just to keep the frenzy going. It's like you spend money on marketing to get your product out there. It costs money to make money. Okay, you don't want to spend money, but you have to spend money to do. They spend money to drive prices a little bit higher while they capitalize on that market. And that's what's been happening. I can see that's actually what's happening on Bitcoin. Now, the reason I'm mentioning all of these things is so that you can prepare yourself as the tops of Bitcoin start coming in. Now, we have a few prophetic numbers that we've been looking at primarily. In our community, Triple J has given us the first prophetic number of 70,000. Our friend Christian gave us around 66,000. Now, these currently match the top spike areas that I believe Bitcoin is going to go through. I believe that Bitcoin is not done. Although it may be done on the larger time frames, I believe we're still going to be spiking for a little bit and have some pullbacks back to lower numbers. And I'll show you why I believe that. But I believe we're going to have some pullbacks back to some lower numbers before coming back up. Ultimately, I believe that Bitcoin's going to be going to around 120,000, somewhere around there. I believe that's eventually where we're going to be getting. I have a curve that has a mid phantom that's somewhere around 135, but ultimately I'm watching USDT.D for that primary move. Let's go back to USDT so I can put this part all together. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stretch our bottom line to account for that middle layer, not just the first one. Okay, there we go. You can see that we've brought it down, and if you would like to bring it down on yours, you can do that. Now, I've already ran the Tiger calculation based on this area, and it primarily gives us supports at various places. Primarily, I can tell that when price cleared above 4.71, this was more a big deal. This is primarily a continuation. Last time I had my Tiger angle, it was at 4.61. It was at 4.61, primarily right here. And that's where price first went below and then pulled back up. Now, I like to see price respond to my Tiger lines. If they don't respond on the bottom side, I like to see them respond to the top side, especially with round action that lets me know I'm going down. If we wanted to be conservative and we took half of the measurement between our current support range and take the distance from the middle section up to one of the tops of the spikes, and then we bring it down to the middle area, we can have a good estimate of where we might be expecting the support to happen. Okay, now these supports may be around when Bitcoin hits 70,000. but there are 4.07 for my first estimate up to Tiger Line, or around 3.91 area for the second, which means we could still be expecting Bitcoin to be bullish for a few more days. Actually personally expecting somewhere around mid-March. Before the end of March, something to get bad, right? I believe that's going to be the reversal, and I believe we're going to be already down here at these points, coming back up. Now, here's something very interesting. I have two primary locations on which I want to buy cryptocurrencies in bulk. Okay, number one, I want to stay in right now because I believe we're going just a little bit farther, even if we're hitting this area on the weekly charts. I believe personally we're going to be spiking. The primary evidence, remember, is that we spiked last time. Okay. Now, if prices reverse in a large way, I think we're coming up to this X area or somewhere along this top track. What I'm primarily looking to is for this chart to eventually reach 7.8 line. This line up here. It's not a flat line, so that number is going to go down over the months and weeks. But if it's somewhere around next week or next month or something like that, it's somewhere near 7.80. This top line in blue. And that's based on the foundational area here and here. If you guys want to draw that, you can draw that. When we reach there, I believe we are going to have a very large buying move down to the target area here at 3.14 to 2.80. If you're replicating my chart, this may be a very important point for you. The next point that I want to say is once we are here on the underside of 4.17, I will also wish to be bullish. Meaning if we are rounding up to this area, especially after a spike down to 4.07 or 3.90, if we spike in this area, then guess what? This would fulfill a round support function, and then we could have a very large bullish move. As it is right now, these are the two areas. Now what we can do is we can just give it a range of support and just update your numbers. Possible spike distance, Bitcoin 70,000. In my first video report, I didn't update this number. I left it as 60,000. It should have said 70,000 because we were already at 60,000. I didn't update that. Okay, so anyway, as it is, I believe 4.7 was a big deal. In the same way that we rounded at the 6.14 that we were expecting for many months, you guys had those Tiger calculations. The same way that we rounded on the underside and went down, it is very possible that now that we're blasting through, the pullback could be around here. Now that would put Bitcoin somewhere in maybe the high 40s. It could be somewhere around the 60,000 area. If we pop to 70, if we go all the way down here and price is at 70, then this would probably be approximately $60,000 for Bitcoin. Now this would fulfill, at this time, it would fulfill a prophetic word that we were hearing from Triple J. And I wish it was recorded because I could have got you all of this information. But Triple J said that she saw that when Bitcoin was at 60,000, when Bitcoin was allowed to be at 60,000, then it's going to have the move to 120. But we also saw smaller numbers along the way. And that's just why, according to my data, I believe right now you're going to hit a spike. You're going to go up and it's going to look like this red arrow, something like this. Bitcoin will hit 60,000 and the time to buy cryptos will really ensue. And the primarily reason for that is even though there's support here, if prices are allowed to build and reach down here and have some heavy closes on the underside or on here, it's very possible that move will start now. Now, I don't believe we're going straight there. I think we're going to hit 70 and we're going to take a big dip either back here to the 4.87 areas as it is right now, or possibly the 7.80s. But I want to be looking primarily to buy cryptos once we're on the underside here. That's when I want to buy, and I also want to buy again up here. The points of rejection are over the month. I want to reject at the spikes. That's where I think we're going to get some of the best prices for this reversal, up to here or up to here. Bitcoin at 40s, maybe even to 30,000. But if we're allowed to get up to the spike, I would see Bitcoin at a very low price. We would probably see Bitcoin in the low 30s if we're allowed to hit this one. That's primarily what I'm expecting. But again, if we just go up here to spike, this means that we should be going down to 3.14, 2.80. Now you remember in my report from the other day, I said I really believe the reversal's here. But if price doesn't want to stop and pay the toll and it just gets sucked down into this area, and I talked about the vortexes, where when I have lots of supports in different areas, it creates something called a vortex. This is what I call a vortex. And in those areas, even if price is high, prices will get sucked in those vortexes. People in Chartroom, they notice this all the time. I tell them about vortexes, and many times when price is hovering above an area, it will get sucked down. But I always give a warning. When there's a strong vortex, every now and then price will suck it right through the vortex and we can come out on the other side. Imagine like a big tornado or a hurricane, but once you get to the center of the tornado, there's peace before the storm. Something else happens. Now the storm could now be on the opposite side. If this is the case and USDT.D is allowed to reverse underneath here, it is very possible we're going to experience a strong move down to the 3.14 and Bitcoin will be at a very high level. It is this point at which I believe is the great crypto crash. Okay, that's what I believe. That's what the great crypto crash is going to be. What I expect is prices to be going up in Bitcoin down on this chart. It's always the opposite till about mid-May or to end of May. After that, I expect things to be very bleak for a short time around till April. Somewhere around April is where I expect it, and probably as it is, because of the depth of this chart, it's either going to be 4.98 or it's going to be the 7.80. And from there, from April to June, I believe is going to be a very great time of wealth transfer events. You're going to see this large move. That's going to be the move. It's either going to be here to here or it's going to be from here to here. And you're going to see a lot of the wealth transfer cryptos, altcoins hit some of their highest targets. You're going to see them hit some very strong ones. Okay, so these are the territories that I expect. And this would fulfill prophecy about cryptocurrencies hitting a godlike candle. And when we hit that godlike candle on Bitcoin, you're going to see a great drop in prices. I believe this is going to leave us to around June 27th. I had a dream that on June 27th, that price is reversed in a big way. Now, I was told this as well, or reminded of this. Even though I currently believe I have a lot of Luna, a classic, I am just saying what I felt in the earth. At this time, I want to state, we're going to be looking at different cryptos. I want you to keep in mind, I want you to pay attention to some of the higher numbers on the map and some of the lower numbers on price maps. Because depending on where we're at or what territory is going to happen, we're going to need to look and take action. I received a prophetic word from a friend yesterday, gave me a call. This friend said that this person believes the Lord really, and this person hasn't been watching YouTube. They haven't even been in the country. They've been out of country, been doing an important work of the Lord. And while this person was doing all of these things, they stayed a very pure vessel, hearing from the Lord. And when they got back into the quiet time with the Lord, they said, okay, Lord, what's happening in the markets? I haven't seen any of Jay Song's videos. I haven't watched the markets. I haven't watched YouTube. I haven't even looked at the cryptos. What's happening? And the Lord spoke to this person and said, the wealth transfer may not happen exactly as people think for many. For some, it's going to be longer holding for maybe overnight experiences or longer term moves. But for many, he wants to test his children by allowing them to navigate the various obediences that he's going to give them during the market. And this is going to look a lot like day trading. Using day trading, he's going to teach his people to follow the Lord, obey, maybe buy or sell. The Bible tells us that of Proverbs 31, woman, her trading is profitable. And for some, it may be buying and selling, knowing how to take profit, knowing how to accumulate, in some instances, even knowing how to short. Now on Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching a tutorial about how to short. We're going to be primarily focusing on the futures market when we do short. So that means we're going to be using cryptocurrency in the futures so that we can take negative positions when we believe price is going to go down and positive positions when we believe price is going to go up. But at certain moments, we're going to have to do those actions. There's only a few more things that I want to share with you before we take a look at the cryptos that we highlighted from today's menu. We have a down angle about here. It's pretty sharp on the weekly chart. We just needed to adjust it to account a little bit for the low side. Yeah, it's about right there on the top of that red candle. When we have the key angle, we now have the exact phantom angle. We just move it to the lowest energy center. In this case, it's going to be right back here on December 4th. And we can see that the close for this week is coming up on Sunday night, and at the time of the filming, it was 1 day and 5 hours. But I can see that this candle has a very strong chance of closing below this angle. And what that means is that from that small area of time, we could experience more down move, okay? Normally in a crypto, I'll say this is sickness because we're underperforming the trend. And when we're trading within a trend that's going down and we build on the lower side of that trend, that's what I call sickness. The opposite is what I call extreme health or bullishness. And that's when we're in an up, it would look just like this. That would be when price is going up and then we start performing on the top side of the trend. That is extreme health or bullishness. That's when usually we start experiencing accelerations. But as it is, that is more evidence that we're going to be going to the spike distances in the 4.70 range, somewhere around here. I believe that's going to be meaning we can play with cryptos a little bit longer and be safe. But mother may I, the tsunami's already coming, but we can go surfing for a few hours more, something like that. Especially, but we need to be careful once we hit 70,000. I believe that's really all the overtime you're getting before we experience a large quick down move to the downside. And it's either going to be again here at 4.99 area, somewhere around this line at that angle. Okay, 4.84, somewhere along that angle, or the yellow X, somewhere around the 7.80. Okay, those are the short-term moves that I see. We'll get back to more of these moves as the month progresses. If you guys like our content, in all things, my goal is to be here for you during these times. Our website's right here at the bottom, www.patreon.com/jsong_7. I want to be here for you through many of the wealth transfer events as best as I can. But on our website is where I primarily spend most of our time doing our crypto live meetings. We call it Chartroom, and we have a dive tier. It's $18 a month, and you get access to all the live invite meetings. You can make requests of the cryptos, such as our people today. We do have one free all Patreon dive that is with our full video, our full meeting, plus our after class, and we always conclude our day reading the Word of God. We also have a few additional things that we do on our class, such as digital art for Art Club. And primarily, we have WordRoom on Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're watching this, I want you guys to watch our WordRoom episode. You can join us and get the link by being a free Patreon member if you want to, and then I'll email you the link to our live online service just before we meet. Now, every Sunday we have a special message, and we have special training as well by Team John Paul Jackson Asia, our host Vibrant. And Vibrant's going to be sharing with us the art of hearing God, and it's just amazing. And you sign up to be a Dive Tier member as well. We really appreciate your support of our ministry. We appreciate your support so that we can continue to make this content for you. On our website, we have a new report tier, which gives access to all of our screenshots, all of our image. Usually our report was going to be either in video format or a text format, and you can get access on our website to our report tier, where we're going to be covering the menu for today. And I hope you're excited about that.